tell me something, Abhijit. You and I, we talked about a month ago about these farmers' protests and how they were still in the formatory stage at that point. See, it was very clear right from the beginning that this is not a farmers' protest as much as the people who wanted to somehow create stir. I mean, I am shocked to say this, Abhijit. When I go on 880, which is one of the interstate highways in California, or on the 101, there we say stop help India's farmers, and these are all nonsensical things. They also have this electronic signboard that starts talking about all these things. It's just disgusting when people don't even know what the topic is, what the context is, and they are mouthing all these things in halfway across the world. Now, why do you think the government is allowing this thing to play out? Did they not learn from the Shaheen Bagh protests?
No, they haven't. They're basically too stupid to learn. Do you remember the messaging at that point of time was the most there was no messaging.
No, there was no messaging. Even now,
it was
yes.
Dumb messaging or clumsy messaging if there had been messaging. But there was no messaging. Okay, it was people on Twitter defending the government. The government wasn't defending itself. And you have a too smart by half foreign minister who's willing to go around giving these too smart by half speeches everywhere, except when it actually counts, he's never to be seen. Okay, so when it was up to Shaheen Bagh or when it was up to these farmers' protests, what is he doing? Absolutely nothing. I really don't know what he's up to. Eating scones with jam, with strawberry jam and clotted cream, or sipping on Earl Grey tea. I really don't understand what the man is doing, because he seems to be doing everything other than his job. If it isn't the job of the foreign minister of India to defend India abroad against all kinds of nonsense like this, what is it? I mean, please tell me who in the government has that job description. And after Shaheen Bagh, you remember, the only little petulant virtue signaling he does is ban the US Council on Religious Freedoms from coming here to investigate. Very good. But then here's the point. What did you say or do during the entire riot phase or the CA or NRC phase to defray any of the criticism? Nothing. He's again doing nothing. He goes from think tank to think tank, giving some closet speech after closet speech after closet speech. Everybody seems to go, oh, he's so smart. Oh, he's so brilliant. Oh, he's so this. Public में ये सब किसी को दिखाई नहीं दे रहा है. Okay, so we have an absentee foreign minister who doesn't seem to know his own job, or is kept quiet by the government, I don't know, which is highly likely. What's the point?
There is things are actually coming to a boil on this particular case because the Labour Party in United Kingdom is actually going to start making noise that whatever is happening to minorities in India is nothing short of a genocide. Again, these people seem to have taken the script from our commie left-leaning loonies from India. But tell me something, Abhijit. You have a lot of friends that span all the religions, minorities, everything in India. Tell me one instance where this government has willfully acted against any minority. They're not acting. That's my point. Not even.
But look, to be fair, I'm not the best sample size, right? Because I've personally never seen persecution, and many people tell me you probably have been persecuted. It's just you've got one of those mindsets that you'll never become, you don't want to be a victim, so you will never become a victim. And, people like that only get attracted to other people like that. You hate making friends with victims in that sense, right? So all my friends are very, very strong people that have a huge issue seeing themselves as being victimized. Like I know lots of rape victims who've kind of fought back against their, some of them have got justice, some of them haven't, but it keeps going on. But they're all very, very strong people. So, it's probably not the right question to ask, because people like that are few and far between. So I exist in an echo chamber. So if you ask my echo chamber, what has the government ever willfully done? They will say nothing. But that's not necessarily how the rest of the people see it.
Thank you for that. And the next question is coming from Nayak at Chinmay G. Nayak. Is Modi government's inaction on rioters a result of the fear that has been instilled in him from the 2002 riots, which has been kept alive by these pseudo journos for 2 decades?
Hmm. No, I don't think it's fear. I think it's a refusal to learn lessons and improve. He's obviously not learned how to. What was he pilloried for? For allowing the riots to continue for as long as they did, for not cracking down. And what do you see today? Again, not cracking down. He's just allowing them to continue. So it's not a fear, it's a belief of infallibility and a refusal to learn.
Balaji Ramsamy at Balram70. If agriculture is a state subject, why can't the government shift the burden of MSP, fertilizer subsidy, and new farm laws implementation to states and run pilots in states where its own party is in power?
Several states have used their power under the agriculture, this thing. Several haven't, right? And the problem is in the places at some point you've got to uniform the laws out. You can't keep having different laws for different states because that doesn't end up working. In Punjab specifically, why is Punjab protesting the way nobody else is? And that's because agricultural income has always been used to fund terrorism out there. It has been a source of political funding out there, so on and so forth. So, land holding patterns change, inheritance patterns change, industrialization of each state changes, and you basically need some kind of uniform template to go off. That is what the government was doing. See, the state, when it is a state subject, the state can add on to certain laws, but you need to have the basic minimum laws. And that's what the government's trying to do, the basic minimum, because ultimately the state draws its money from the central disbursement anyway.
Akshit Chandok wants to know what role is the West playing in these protests? These are questions from YouTube.
Hmm.
These are farmer
Um,
protests. Yeah.
yeah, okay. So farmer protests, what are they? What is the role the West is playing? The West's governments are not playing a role, but Western policy towards Khalistanis over the last 30-40 years is specifically Canadian and UK policy towards Khalistanis, because it's the Khalistani diaspora and Italian as well. Because Italy is a very important place for mozzarella. All the mozzarella and parmesan business is owned by Punjabis. And the southern Italian mafia are quite beholden to the Pakistanis in terms of money laundering. So Italy specifically has become a very toxic mix of Khalistan meets ISI. The 26/11 attacks, the Mumbai attacks were funded out of Italy. Okay. So these accumulated policies towards Khalistanis and things like that have been playing a role in these protests. Uh, Outside of that, there doesn't seem to be a particular Western government role in any of this.
Thank you. Rohan Kulkarni wants to know where do you see this farmers' agitation going?
Ah, God, because you still haven't dispersed them, I see them getting even more violent. Okay, I see them. I see several spurts of violence. They will continue the facade of being peaceful farmers, but come summer and things like that, come the next month, there's going to be more spasmodic violence happening. Like you had, for example, if you take the whole CA NRC thing, it started off with the Selampur riots and the Jamia Millia Islamia riots. Then there was the calm, which was Shaheen Bagh, which wasn't exactly calm because remember, they took hostage a friend of mine called Gunja Kapoor. They beat up friends of mine live on TV camera on Rahul Kanwal's show. They beat up my lawyer, Raghav Avasthi. So, it wasn't peaceful by any sense. There were a bunch of third-rate stinky terrorists, scumbags, complete scumbags, a gathering of swines, but it is what it is. And because you didn't deal with that, you then have the Delhi riots, which again, in spite of that, it still wasn't cracked down on, and it continued till COVID finally shut it down. Here again, you've had the same thing. The tractor blockade, you did nothing. Then so-called peaceful protests, then the uprooting of telecom towers, You do nothing, still peaceful, so-called peaceful protest. Then the storming of the Red Fort, again you do nothing, still peaceful, so-called peaceful protest. Something has to happen, or COVID has to happen again. Okay, maybe there'll be a big outbreak of malaria or diarrhea or meningitis or laryngitis or whatever you want to call it. I'd suggest the best thing to do is to put those red and black little berries that you get in Delhi's forests into their biryani, and they'll get a mass outbreak of diarrhea out there, and that might solve the problem. But no, it's going to you're going to see several peaks of violence over and over and over again.
So on top, Prithudak wants to know, there is so much fake propaganda about this farmer protest. What should the government do to stop fake pictures and videos making circles in WhatsApp?
So, I've been advocating, based on Israeli experiences in the occupied territories, been talking about using camera footage to allay fake news for the last 5 years. Nobody bothered listening, not in Kashmir, not CRPF, not BSF, nobody, not the government, not the Home Ministry, nobody. And if you remember, it was the tractor footage that finally caught out this lie of Navreet Singh being shot. In spite of that, they ran a story saying Navreet Singh was shot, even though it's been captured on camera. And what has the government's response to it been? Zero, zilch, nothing. So you have a very, very problematic issue, which is, one, cameras aren't going to solve your basic human problem. Because you've seen this fundamental issue that even when camera footage was available, the opposition stole the narrative and insisted that this fellow was shot. Technology cannot technology can enable smart people. Technology can make smart people smarter, but technology cannot substitute for ghonchus. Technology cannot substitute for orangutans and chimpanzees masquerading around as a government.
Subbu has a question. Is Modi waiting for a negative perception on farm protests before acting? Would that be a good strategy?
I honestly have given up guessing what Modi is waiting for. I've made 100 different calculations, the positive ones, the negative ones. He never lives up to any of them. So only Modi knows what he's waiting for. I personally see this entire sequence, starting with last year, as just compound incompetence. That's all.
With that, our questions have come to an end. Viewers, we still have a lot of stuff that we have in our bank. We will start asking those questions in the next Hangout, which is going to be exactly a week from now. Abhijit, thank you very much. And that was very, very illuminating. A lot of topics covered, free and frank exposition of views from you. And I think it marks a big milestone for PGurus. And we are going to have, like I said, the first 4 weeks, we are going to have membership drive. We would like you to start thinking about becoming a member, because after the first 4 episodes, you will have to be a member to be able to join Abhijit's Ask Me Anything. And it's not very expensive. We will share the numbers with you. I think you can afford it. And not only are you going to get this program, but a whole lot more specialist speakers who will be interacting with you, who are happy to interact with you. So we are giving a very free and fair exchange of views. So please consider becoming a member, and we will be sharing these details shortly. Abhijit, again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, bro.
Veil, Vetrivel, Veeravel, Vetrivel, thank you very much.